What if the strongest thing that you can do as a man isn't what you think it is? What if real strength wasn't about having it all together, but being honest when you don't? What if the forge that shapes the truest version of yourself is hidden in the very places that you've been taught to avoid? Welcome to the Heartsmith Podcast. I'm Jason Twombly, and this is where men come to forge courage, train for emotional mastery, and live both from a clear mind and a wild heart. Today, I want to tell you why this podcast exists, what a heartsmith actually is, and why I believe the world needs more men willing to do this work. Let's go to the forge. Here's what I know about men. We're good at building things, fixing things, achieving things. We know how to show up when the world needs us to be strong. But here's what most of us have never been taught: how to be strong with our own hearts. We live in a culture that taught us emotional intelligence is optional, that feelings are something to manage, not master, that vulnerability is weakness, not courage. And it's killing us. Literally, the suicide rates, the addiction rates, the divorce rates, the number of men who've built everything that they thought they wanted and still feel empty inside. I've been a men's coach for years now, and I've sat across from successful entrepreneurs, lawyers, doctors, fathers who'll all ask the same question. How did I get so good at everything except being human? Sound familiar? This is why the podcast exists. Because emotional strength isn't something you're born with or without. It's something you train like a muscle, like a skill, like any craft worth mastering. And that's what a heartsmith is, a man who's committed to the craft of emotional mastery. Someone who understands that the heart isn't just something you have, it's something you forge. Think about an actual blacksmith for a moment. He doesn't avoid the fire, he uses it. He doesn't fear the hammer, he wields it. He knows that the strongest steel is not made in comfort, it's shaped in the forge. Your heart works the same way. The difficult emotions that you've been taught to avoid, they're not your enemy, they're your material. The relationships that challenge you, that's your forge. The parts of yourself you'd rather not face, that's where the gold is hidden. But here's the thing, you can't do this work alone, and you can't do it without guidance. That's what this podcast is. It's your forge, your training ground, your community of men who've decided that becoming whole is worth way more than just looking perfect. So, what can you expect from the Heartsmith podcast? First, real talk. No spiritual bypassing, no toxic positivity, just honest conversation about what it actually takes to become an emotionally mature man in a world that doesn't teach us how. Second, practical tools. Every episode will give you something you can actually use, a practice, a framework, a way to apply what we're talking about in real life. Third, stories. Mine, other men's, the archetypal stories that have been guiding men toward wholeness for thousands of years. Because transformation happens through story, not just information. Some episodes will be just me sharing what I've learned in the forge of my own becoming, and other episodes will feature men who've done this work. Not perfect men, but men who've chosen the path of growth over the path of pretending. We'll talk about anger and how to feel it without being controlled by it, about grief and why most men have never learned to let themselves break open, about relationships and what it actually means to be intimate without losing yourself. We'll explore the shadow, those parts of yourself that you've rejected or hidden. We'll talk about father wounds and how to heal them, about purpose and how to find work that feeds your soul, not just your bank account. And yes, we'll talk about the body because you can't heal what you can't feel. And most of us have been so disconnected from our bodies for so long, we've forgotten that they are the home of our wisdom. Every episode will include some kind of practice, breathing, sensing, moving, reflecting, because this isn't academic. This is applied spirituality, practical wisdom, emotional training. But let me tell you the real reason I'm doing this. I believe the world needs a different kind of man right now. Not the old version that was all strength and no heart, and not the new version that's all heart and no backbone, but integrated men, whole men, men who could feel deeply and think clearly, men who can be fierce and gentle, tough and tender, strong and vulnerable, grounded and open. Men who've done their own work so they can show up for the work the world needs. Because here's what I've learned. You can't give what you don't have. You can't love others well if you don't know how to love yourself. You can't lead with integrity if you're not integrated. And you can't help heal the world if you haven't done your own healing. This isn't selfish work. This is the most generous thing that you can do. When you become a heartsmith, when you commit to forging your own emotional strength, you don't just change your life, you change every life you touch. Your kids, they'll see a father who models emotional intelligence. Your partner experiences a man who can hold space for their feelings and his own. Your friends discover what real brotherhood looks like. The world gets another man who leads from wholeness instead of woundedness. That is a game changer. That's why this matters. That's why this work isn't optional anymore. That's why you're here. So here's my commitment to you. I'll show up authentically. I'll share not just my successes, but my failures, not just my insights, but my struggles. I'll give you tools that actually work, things I've tested in my own life and see transform the lives of the men that I coach. And I'll hold space for the full spectrum of your humanity, the parts that you're proud of and the parts that you're working on, the dreams you're chasing and the fears that you're facing. Because what this is what this journey requires. It's not perfection, it's willingness. Willingness to feel, willingness to grow, willingness to become. And in return, as you listen, all I ask is that you show up, really show up, not just to listen, but to apply, to practice, to implement the tools, to do the work. And when something resonates, share it. Share it with another man who needs to hear it, because this work spreads man to man, heart to heart, forge to forge. If you want to go deeper, head over to the Heartsmith Coach on Substack. That's where I dive into these themes in writing, share additional resources, and continue the conversation between episodes. And if you're ready for more intensive work, if you want personal coaching or to join one of my men's groups, you'll find those links there as well. Next week, we're going to start with another episode that I'll entitle The Man in the Mirror. And we're going to look and talk about the unspoken cost of emotional avoidance. There's a high cost, and men are professionals at emotional avoidance. And we're going to look honestly at yourself being the first act of courage on this path. We'll slow down and reflect. And until then, here's a simple practice. Just notice. Just notice. Slow down and notice what you're feeling throughout the day. Don't fix it. Don't change it. Just notice. That's where it all begins, with honest awareness. Keep forging. Thank you for listening to the Heartsmith Podcast. Shape the heart, forge the man. I'm Jason Twombly, and I'll see you in the forge.